Welcome to the Lit Podcast. How are the elements of sonship actually adhered to? Are there opportunities that are more available to the men than to the women, although they are all sons? So it's not that the Spirit of God that has been poured out on men is more than the Spirit of God poured out in women. Today's conversation is touching on gender equity in the faith-based circles. And, just coming to the truth about it from the ground level, not from information and knowledge that we get from books or that we get from the internet and studies, is actually on the ground. Beyond the 1/3 rule about gender equality and equity, are we really practicing and putting to practice these things that we're talking about? Looking at it from a society point of view, women serve they're like a huge part of ministry. However, they seem to be not considered for their needs and opportunities as well. There's conversations around sonship in the church, and as much as women are there, how are the elements of sonship actually adhered to? What was God's intention about Adam and Eve together? Was it subordinate or was it partnership? Was it to achieve something together? And how were they achieving that one thing together? We need to have conversations around the biblical teachings concerning gender equity and equality. Some communities today in Kenya and in Nairobi at that, still in the capital city, believe and have notions of gender equality being that the women take up the more feminine roles and the males take up the more stronger roles. However, when you look at the work of the church, it's more strongly based on the Spirit and the Spirit of God. The word of the Lord says that He poured out His Spirit on all flesh. That means men and women. So it's not that the Spirit of God that has been poured out on men is more than the Spirit of God poured out in women. It's the same Spirit of God poured out on all. When we look at roles such as opportunities that can be in the church to serve, we find that opportunities such as hospitality, housekeeping, tend to fall more on the woman. While it is not wrong, and possibly because of culture, we find that women tend to have a good hand in those roles. It is also not correct to say that it is a womanly thing because cleanliness, everybody knows how to be clean. Everybody knows how, well, to the best of their knowledge and exposure, how to keep themselves in an orderly manner. And so, it's also bringing about the idea that, wow, can men not serve in the hospitality department? Does it make them lesser? Um, what is the whole point behind hospitality? Opportunities such as sitting in boards in church circles and faith-based circles. Are women allowed to sit on the board? Are they only good secretaries? Can they be good contributors of management kind of principles, of administrative functions? Of course they can. But are we having those conversations? Are we applying this knowledge to such circles? With gender equity, it's all about providing the needs that the genders require in workplace, in whatever space that you may be in. And so you'll find if women are the ones that are of a great number serving in the church and in ministry and in other faith-based organizations, then are their needs being met? Are we having spaces where women can have their children taken care of? Are we having lactation booths, for example, when a woman comes from leave, somewhere where it's private, comfortable, and allows for her to privately, express the milk that is required for the child or the baby? Are there spaces, that actually cater for helping or catering to the needs that the woman requires? even as she's in service to God in such spaces? Do we really consider them important, or are they just an expense that the organization can overlook, the woman can bear without? These are things that and are conversations that we look to delve into as a lit podcast, living in the truth and living in the hour. The other thing to consider is the next generation that is coming up. That's the next generation that's coming up in the church. That's the next generation of elders, the next generation of teachers, of pastors, of leaders. There are certain principles that this next generation has a different idea about. They're more liberal and more open to ideas that the functions that exist, they're open to all, both men and women. But where do we draw the line? How do we communicate these things, these principles to the next generation that is in truth and that is in practicality? Because when we start talking about things like sonship now in the church, um, are the men more privileged than the women as sons? Are there measures taken to help the women as sons in the ministry? Are there opportunities that are more available to the men than to the women, although they are all sons? Consider aspects like a senior pastor looking to open a church and having a lady as a senior pastor in that church. Is it a reality? Is it something that's far fetched? Are we dreaming? And must there be a man to cause for validation for that, even though the person that has sent her as a father is still a figure? These are things that we think about, these are things that we consider because that's where the world is going. And that's where the next generation is looking to. Having equality and equity in the faith based circles. Share with me your thoughts in the comment section. If you would love to be a part of this conversation, because we're in the stages of planning, share with me your contacts on the direct message, and we'll be able to reach out and have this conversation with you upon availability. Thank you so much for taking your time. It's been absolutely awesome. I have been your host, Ivy Carrera from the Lit Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Many blessings.